We're
Oh,
live.
it just went straight into
There it is.
Hey!
it.
The
Well, hi everyone.
initialization took longer than the astronaut song. And here we are.
Hi, hi everyone. So
Surprise!
for those, so for those who don't know what happened, we were, we have the funky little like. Can you play it really quickly? Just a moment of it, just so everyone can see it, right? Like it's what you're used to. Yeah, that.
We still start
Yeah,
soon?
right. So it's that thing, right? And so we play that prior to the show, and then we can kind of talk to each other behind the scenes. And when we play that, it's about a 2 minute little intro sequence, and we use that also as like a covering area so the system can go live because it takes a moment for YouTube to go live. And so we're playing this thing, and we're all like dancing to it and like having a conversation, talking about my Cybertruck. And for whatever reason, it's just sat there going initializing. And then I'm tweeting out saying, hey, we're having problems going live. And then all of a sudden it just kicks us on the air without any warning. So hi everyone, it's good to see you. I'm glad that you were able to make it back this week. My name is Jamie Higginbotham. I am joined by Ryan Caton, a Dutta, and a Jared Head right over there. I'm getting better at that, by the way. And today we've got many different topics. Let me resort myself. So some of these we may get to in our member show. One of the things we do want to talk about is Boeing is getting ready to send astronauts up to the International Space Station. Hashtag finally. We also have SpaceX expended a rocket dubbed to, oh my god, and the dude in Mission Control saluting. Did you guys see that? We'll talk about that in a minute.
No.
Contact with Voyager Run. We've got Dragonfly mission. Some Starship Flight 3 details. Sounds fun. Rather than starting with the Boeing stuff, do you guys want to start? Everyone loves Starship, right? Do you guys want to start with Starship, and I'll just shut up and go away for a moment?
Yeah, shut up. Go away.
Yeah, bury the lead.
Okay,
Bye, Mom.
bury the lead. You got it. Well, or Starship the lead. Anyhow,
Here we go, everybody.
Now we're
As, of
by
course,
ourselves.
yeah, now we can really talk about the things that actually matter. So, Ryan, we got some new details from NASA this week from Starship Flight 3. What do we got? Because some of them are cool, quite literally cool.
Yeah, so there was a meeting of some advisory committee that I've forgotten the name of at NASA, and essentially the basic premise of it is it's just a massive, massive update meeting on all things Artemis, funding, scheduling, Orion, Gateway, scheduling, if I haven't said that already, and of course Starship, because it's one of the human landing system landers. So we now have official word that NASA has classified Flight 3 as successful and that it got into orbit. We know what they mean by orbit. And so NASA officially counts it as a successful mission, which is, I think, is the first time they've said that, which is great. And we also got some more details on the tanker transfer demonstration, because obviously cryogenic propellant transfer is a critical function of the entire Starship program moving forwards. It's the only way Starship can be Starship and go to these far-flung destinations like the moon or Mars or beyond. It needs to be able to refuel. If it can't refuel, it can't do any of that. And the cryo propellant demo transfer, we now know, is currently scheduled to be next year in 2025. And both ships it's going to be between two ships, and both ships are going to be launched from the same launch pad, presumably the current pad at Boca Chica. And they're going to be launched 3 to 4 weeks apart. So this kind of quashes any rumours that they're going to have to do 2 launches at the same time, one from Starbase, one from the Cape, or 2 launches from both pads at Boca. So this also means that we can now kind of reevaluate our timeline on a second pad at Boca, because we now know they won't need 2 pads, they only need 1, which, everything's now kind of pointing towards the pad that already exists being used for that propellant transfer demo, both launches. And 3 to 4 weeks between launches, this is the cadence that we're going to probably be seeing within the next couple of months between Flight 3, which is probably going to be next month, and then Flight 4, which is probably going to be next month, and then Flight 5 after that. It's currently looking like the cadence is really squashing down. If you extrapolate all of the data, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5 could be like 3 or 4 weeks between those different flights. So that's the number they're already giving for next year. So this target seems incredibly reasonable and incredibly realistic to me from what we are seeing today. So yeah, it's really exciting. Something I forgot to mention was the propellant transfer between tanks on Starship during the last flight. That was also deemed as successful by NASA as well. So SpaceX now has successful data on in space cryogenic propellant transfer between tanks. Now they just need to put the tanks in separate vehicles, dock them together, and do it on a full scale.
Excellent. And that's, of course, going to be super important because you're going to have to, like you mentioned, refuel in orbit in order to actually get the vehicle to the moon. And with that, we get a little bit of what we've always said that NASA should do, is that stuff that nobody else is really doing, the real bleeding edge kind of technology and the cryogenic propellant transfer, helping fund a mission to do that and get milestones and make sure that's proven, and then build the technological readiness level and become flight worthy. Those are definitely right in line with what a lot of us think NASA should be doing. So really great overall to see that NASA finally is officially designating Flight 3 a success, and then seeing that in the future coming up as well. And I just want to say that I totally agree with the cadence of Starship and its flights starting to really lower, get those days between flights closer, lessen the amount of time that we have to wait, and you're right. That should definitely be happening. I think, I don't know if, publicly it's been said that they want to launch Flight 5 ASAP as soon as possible. Sort of no as little a buffer as they can with that there. And I'm sure a lot of the work that we've been seeing on both Booster 11 and Ship 29, I believe it's going to be flying with Booster 11. I'm sure a lot of the work being done with them, and also with the support equipment, ground support equipment, has also been being upgraded in order to allow that to happen. The exploration actually has. Let's see. RVL says if this trend continues, they'll be flying Flight 5 or Flight 6 before Flight 5. So that's true. They might. I mean, with the space shuttle, they were all out of order eventually, right? So, so with exploration, exploration is asking, how is the fuel transferred in microgravity? Do we know anything about any details about the system that SpaceX may be using to transfer those fuels?
As it stands, they will not be using pumps to transfer the propellant. They're just going to do it basically. I'm going to try and explain it really simply in the way I understand it. This may not be technically 100% correct in engineer speak, but essentially it's going to the propellant is going to be moved by creating a pressure differential, which will move the propellant. So they're going to use pressure differential in order to move the propellant in the correct direction that they want it to go, rather than using pumps, which physically, drag the propellant through, push the propellant through. So it's the best part is no part. So by not needing to use pumps, they can eradicate any kind of issues they'd had with pumps because they're not there in the first place.
Yeah, Dada, what do we call that? Do you have
differential?
Any pressure differential? Thank you, Dada. A man of a few words when needed.
No words are the best words.
Thank you, Dada. I appreciate it.
So there's two ways to pump things. If you have a physical pump and it's actually moving fluid, you need a what's called a head on top of it. So basically, your pickup is in the bottom of a tank, and the weight of the liquid or media that's on top of that tank pushing on the bottom of the tank where the pickup is enough to get your pump started, so that when you have either a centrifugal pump that sucks fluid in, or a reciprocal pump that has a suction stroke, there's enough pressure to be able to get liquid into that suction orifice or suction device. And then the pump does work to it, which increases pressure and flow rate. So you put electricity to an electric motor, for example, and it spins a turbine or spins a piston, and that work that you're putting into it goes into the fluid as heat and pressure increase and a flow increase, and so then your output is at a higher pressure and a higher flow rate. In space, getting that head would be very, very difficult because you would have to either be accelerating at 1G or more, or you would have to somehow artificially raise that head. But in space, liquid doesn't pool at the bottom of anything, it just kind of floats. So the pressure differential actually makes quite a bit of sense. The only downside to that is that with cryogenics, you're going to lose lose an amount of media when you're doing that, because if you have a volume, an enclosed volume, as cryogenics warm up, they expand from and change from liquid to gas. That change from liquid to gas causes them to expand. Some of them at a ratio of like 6 or 10 to 1. And that's what develops your pressure. So you constantly have to vent that as the liquid boils off. And in order to take a, say, partially full tank or a partially empty tank and get it to a lower pressure than your full tank that you would be pumping from, you're going to have to vent that down to less than what the full tank is in order to be able to create that pressure differential. And the greater the differential, the faster it would transfer, the more complete it would transfer. But that unfortunately causes a loss of media as you do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the balance, right? You got to figure out how to make that work. And like you said, even more so with cryogenic fluids, becomes a real big challenge. So to be able to see them do that with liquid oxygen during this flight is definitely a great thing to kick off, and enough liquid oxygen that NASA declared it a success. So
That's impressive.
Yeah, definitely. I know that fluids have been transferred before in space. Obviously, right? One of the first time it was done was on a shuttle mission in the 80s, and then they're obviously refueling. Right, you got to refuel the space station and other things like that. So you have to transfer propellants and other stuff from your Progress vehicle in order to do that. So it's been done before with fluids, but not with cryogenic fluids. So I just want to point out that it has been done before, but that definitely does not minimize at all what has occurred on this here, because doing it with fluids is one thing. Doing it with cryogenic fluids is a whole other kind of math in this case. It's pretty wild. Neuropilot is saying, can I recruit Dutta for my next rocket startup? Well, you're going to have to talk to him. I don't know. Dutta, I don't know what your fees are, but I'm sure that they are, enough.
Healthy.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. Stephen Lewis is asking, if they dock and transfer cryo from the header tanks of Ship 1 to main tanks of Ship 2, how do they refill their landing tanks? Well, I think you just don't transfer all, right? So if you're going to be landing,
and also
make sure you have enough propellants.
It depends on the tank layout that they're going to use for the tankers. I'm not 100% sure on the future plan, but I would be surprised if they try and fill up the main tank of the second ship with the header tank of the first ship. I would assume it would be main tank to main tank, not header tank to main tank.
They also have a limited supply of helium and possibly nitrogen on board. They use those to initially pressurize the tanks. Helium is what you use to inert oxygen, because nitrogen would turn into a liquid and mix with your oxygen, which is a bad thing. Nitrogen you usually use for fuels, but the volume that's available to do that is very, very limited, because you have typically, say, 5,000 psi of like a bottle of nitrogen that you would use to pressurize your tank initially, but that is sized to pressurize that tank, and that's it. And like for one flight, you'd have to increase the size available or decrease the size of the tank or something. But you take that 5,000 psi and you expand it into this giant tank, and you only get maybe 120 psi. So you'd have to also resupply your helium and nitrogen stores in order to be able to do this on a regular basis.
And really, kind of moving on a little bit from all of our cryo talk, our cold talk that we've had here today, to talk a little bit more. Thank you, Cameron. I'm glad the Mohawk is back too. And indeed, that is not a Mohawk; it's a linear Aerospike. Because as we all know, the Aerospike engine is the best engine out there. Sorry, Tim, it just is. So, and I will. This is a spike. I will fall upon, if you will, with that. So I love Aerospike engines because they're just good. So kind of going back a couple minutes here to talk about Flight 5, because we already know from the Big Boss Man that there's going to be some very interesting action happening there. But a howdy and hello to Epic Future Space. Good to hear from you again. Was saying hello all. Sure, we could go to that one and then go to the other one. Would it make sense to have separate tanks for each engine, like the first stage of Proton? That probably doesn't apply because not cryo. What do you think of that? Because I figure we would have to have, 6 separate tanks then for that?
Moving up to 9.
Okay. So that would complicate the interior very, very quickly.
Yeah, it seems like keeping everything into just one tank for your methane, one tank for your oxygen is just in terms of main tanks, that it just simplifies the whole thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Gotcha. And then this is the one I wanted to talk to from Epic Future Space, which is, hello, all good to see these updates. What do you think about the grapple catcher Super Claw? And actually, our chat room knew where I was going, apparently, because T-Man Army 2014 says if you could give a percentage on a tower catch on Flight 5, I would say 80% chances success. So T-Man Army 2014, high confidence from you about the catch. But again, we've got a very, very bizarre maneuver not bizarre, but an unusual maneuver amongst the rocket world apparently going to happen on Flight 5. So yeah, what do we think about that? Like, is it like, holy moly, it's a pretty wild thing to think about, right? Like, what do we think about the grapple catcher Super Claw?
I think that it's going to go better than I first assumed, because over the last week we've seen them installing new actuators, which means that the chopsticks can move much quicker than they could before. So my confidence has increased. Is my confidence at 80%? No. But it has increased from where it was. I won't give a percentage yet, because I want to see how Flight 4 goes with the booster splashdown in the ocean, in the Gulf of Mexico. But my confidence has definitely increased.
Dada? How are you feeling about it?
I think it'll eventually go swimmingly.
Okay.
Claw.
Yeah, I was about to say, good to bring that up right below me there. And then I'm with other Jared in the chat here, Jared Elgin, saying, I would say 100% excitement guaranteed, 30% successful catch on first attempt. Yeah, I'm definitely feeling the 30%. If even, I feel more like 20 to 25%. I feel like we're going to watch the...
As with everything SpaceX, there's going to be growing pains and huge explosions for the first one, and then they'll get better and better as they go along.
I honestly feel like if they do nail a precision splashdown on yeah, T-Man Army 2014 basically taking the words out of my mouth, which is that if they can nail it on Flight 4 with the virtual tower, I think they can land it. I think if they nail it on Flight 4, they have a better chance of landing it on Flight 5 with the sticks. But I feel like Flight 5 we're going to see the booster explode, like actually close. Hopefully in the ocean off the coast. So yeah. So we'll have to see about that. So, but anyways,
why would it explode in water, Jared?
As our own, sorry, it's kind of just how it goes. It's called physics. So look it up. So I was gonna make a joke, but I've already filled out my.
That's rich.
I was gonna. Well, so's the air when the booster lands and opens itself. So I was gonna make my joke, but unfortunately, my Reddit joke quota for the year got filled last week. So I can't make fun of Reddit anymore this year. And of course, thank you from Tomorrow Space News, saying kind of like the Cybertruck. And boy, let me tell you, if you want to hear more about the Cybertruck, because Jamie's not going to shut up about it, you should become a member. So, youtube.com/TMRO/members. And then you can join us in the members show where I'm sure Jamie is just going to talk our ears off about Cybertruck. And you can hear about her exploits with hers that she has, because boy, have we. And it's very entertaining, to say the least, with that there.
Adventures.
Adventures is the way to say it. So we also had SpaceX Expend a booster. Hi, Jamie. Welcome back.
I thought we were finishing up, but like if you're still going, I can go away again.
We're just gonna
keep going, and if I have to disappear, I will.
Okay. Thanks, Mom. So we had a our veil basically nailed it as we often do. Hi, Jamie. Bye, Jamie. If you want Jamie to, if you want Chris from NASA Spaceflight to show up, you say Space Shuttle, Space Shuttle, Space Shuttle, right? But if you want Jamie to show up, you say Cybertruck, Cybertruck, Cybertruck. So, but you may not be able to. You may not. Oh, there.
Someone called me.
So, I was going to say, are we sure that Jamie actually is able to be aware of what is occurring, simply because I didn't think we had the software update for Jamie to recognize Cybertruck three times in a row. Right. So that's kind of how it goes. And then also, thankfully, I forgot to charge my headphones. This is going to be a really interesting one. Look at these beautiful Apple headphones with their little plug-in. Don't they look official now? A very weird thing happened, which was that SpaceX expended a booster. So, booster 1060, goodbye. Apparently, somebody in Mission Control saluted the booster on the way out.
Yeah, I missed it on the stream. I saw it on Twitter afterwards because about 50 million people had taken a screenshot of it.
Yeah. Well, I didn't see it on Twitter to begin with because it was 144p. Expending a booster. That's now the story of a flight like that, expending a booster. And that 1060 was a 20 flight booster, right? Oh, there we go. We got it right there. That is so good. Oh my gosh, I love it.
That's hilarious. That is hilarious.
I don't know who that is, but 20% raise immediately. So that's the kind of stuff we need more of in this industry. So that's the good stuff. It's here when the guy saluted. So yes, by 10 to 60, we'll see you later. But Ryan, a little bit. Have you got anything to say on this flight? Because if not, I have some things I'd like to say about this flight, which I found amusing.
Well, obviously, a booster being expended is a rarity for SpaceX these days. the last time that a Falcon 9 was intentionally expended, and expended at all for that matter, was November 2022, which is 18-ish months ago. And then the last, pedantic time. The last time a booster that launched from LC-39A that was intentionally expended was Intelsat 35E in July of 2017. Unless you want to count the in-flight abort test in January of 2020, because the booster was expended just earlier in flight than usual, and it wasn't an intended orbital flight. It was a ballistic trajectory or a suborbital trajectory. So you can say it was IFA or you can say it was Intelsat. Up to you. But saying 2017, which was like 6.5 years ago, that's just that's a cooler thing to say.
Sure.
Wow. That
That
was pedantic. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for those delightful facts. We appreciate it. And I'm sure if this was NASA spaceflight, we get like a $15 super chat for that. Anyways, so it's according to Twitter, Sebastian Rosiak, I'm assuming that's how to say it, propulsion engineer, is the hero we're looking for. And indeed, it is the hero we need right now. So Sebastian, thank you so much. And Epic Future Space saying still 3 boosters in almost 7 years is crazy. Thank you, Ryan. So yeah, that is honestly, Ryan, that is a really great statistic, and I do appreciate that one. And then Mr. All Electric Car Lunacy, one of just such a great name. Pedantic Space. Thank you, Tomorrow Space News, for the $15 super chat. This is for Ryan's amazing stats. Oh boy. Never a dull moment on this show, let me tell you. So,
isn't that like a snake eating its own tail?
Yeah, the Ouroboros or something like that. I'm not sure.
It was that was absolutely worth it for the joke, and I absolutely lost money on it. Would do it again.
That's okay.
Oh, there we go. There we go. All right, started a trend.
There you go. You got your money back.
Electric Car Lunacy. That is a rocket. We could extrapolate that as being either United Launch Alliance's rocket mascot that they have, possibly, or possibly, hear me out on this, the rocket that was drawn on the side of Jamie's face once.
I don't know that I still have that image. If I do, hang on, let me add that.
That's
to the
fair.
show
That's
notes.
fair.
If I do, if I do, we will show that in the member show. Let's see here.
So, yeah. So Stephen Lewis, Mom, you may want to go away here real quick. Stephen Lewis, how soon for Flight 4 on this? So, how soon for Flight 4? What are we thinking?
Mid-May, I think is a pretty good. What's the date? So 28th of April. So we're a few more days and we're into May. There's actually
it's gotta be May.
There's actually a road delay and a closure scheduled for the next couple of days in Starbase, but we don't think that will be for the Flight 4 vehicles. We think that's for Flight 5's vehicle, Ship 30, to do testing. So things are happening. They're happening.
Yeah. It's going quick, and I appreciate that it really is picking up the pace, and there's a lot to cover and a lot of fun stuff. And I do want to say that if you really want to get down into the minutia of it and like the very fine details of it, NASA Spaceflight is really the place to go to for that. I make fun of you guys lovingly, simply because you guys just do such an amazing job with all of your coverage, especially if you become an L2 member at NASA Spaceflight. I will forever thank Chris for providing that, and it's just the amount of information that comes from that is stunning. And I have to say that the most recent one in the SpaceX update thread in SpaceX L2, there's a photo in there of something that I absolutely love because someone said, "What the hell is this?" And then when it was immediately discovered to me is pretty funny because it's not spaceflight related at all, and I love when moments like that happen. So, Ryan, I think you probably know what I'm talking about with that, or maybe I don't know. I'll ping you on Discord about it. It was pretty funny. And by the way, if you want to become a member so that you can see what I meant by the picture of the rocket on Jamie's face, Jamie has found the picture, and we will show it in the member show. So if you'd like to become a member, you can go to youtube.com/TMRO/members. This is gonna be great. I tell you, it's a photo for the ages. Just one final thing I want to say about this launch is that this was for Europe's Galileo system, and this was Europe's Galileo system, which is basically a navigation system. Thank you, Jared. Appreciate that. With that there, appreciate everybody contributing today to us on the show. This launch wasn't really covered even by the customer with it, and I just found that really interesting. It's almost like there was a sort of, I don't want to say like upsettedness about it, but it was very much like we're launching this European payload on a Falcon 9, and it's going.
Yeah. I mean, it was first intentionally going to be launched on a Soyuz. Then the war in Ukraine happened, and we're like, we're not using Soyuz anymore. And Russia's like, well, yeah, we're not going to let you use Soyuz, and we got there first, definitely, before you said we're not going to use it anymore. And then we were like, okay, we'll put it on Ariane 6. And then Ariane 6 is like, I'm not ready. So we're like, well, what on earth do we do? And the only vehicle around in the world that can put these satellites where they need to go in the time frame required is an expendable Falcon 9.
Yeah, so... yeah, and there was very much that we're going to fly it on an Ariane. So yeah. Oh well. But I mean, hey, I think that just goes to show how versatile SpaceX is. You could get customers that typically wouldn't be flying on your vehicles. Customers, literally customers that are, I don't want to say competitors, but like people who would favor your competitor are now flying on you, mostly because you have a rocket and your competitor doesn't at the moment. But that's not to say that, I mean, take your time getting the rocket right? So, I mean, at this point, at this stage, get it right. That's all I have to say about taking your time on stuff like that.
Yeah, but how awesome is that SpaceX is agile enough to be able to go, oh yeah, you don't have a ride? Come on, let's go get on this rocket over here.
Yeah, and I mean it's not even just that either. It's the agility to just do things flat out, right? Like SpaceX basically said, hey, let's just get a whole bunch of small sats. Hey, small sat community, small sat world, who wants to fly? Bam, transporter missions. So.
You go to space. You go to space. You go to space.
You go to space. You go to space. And now, what do they call it? What's the new batch of small sat launchers or launches that SpaceX is going to do now? It was a really funny name.
Bandwagon.
Bandwagon. Yes, I love that one as well. So, with that, and in our chat room, with a thank Dave Avery for gifting 5 Tomorrow Space News memberships. So
spaceship members.
Yeah, something like that.
I appreciate I appreciate all of the things, but gifting membership, especially today when you get to see this epic picture, truly thank you, Dave. And then anyone who got that membership, just remember now you can go to the membership show. You're eligible to get into the membership show after the fact and see this incredibly horrific face painting. So thank you very much for enabling more people to see this very embarrassing picture.
We're all about support, Jamie.
Yeah. That's what we do. So, all right. I think we're good on that front with everything. Let us continue on into other realms of space.
Awesome. I mean, why don't we unbury the lead, which was we were going to talk about Starliner, right?
Yes.
And
wait. I have some business to attend to.
Yeah.
No. Oh, yes. No.
JTTV asks the question, Did Data see a Rocket Lab launch? No, I did not.
So it's still 0 Rocket Lab launches for Data.
It is still 0 Rocket Lab launches.
That boggles my mind, Data. That absolutely boggles my mind. I try to watch it boggles my mind, Data.
I have nothing against Rocket Lab. Peter Beck is awesome. I've got tons of friends that work there, and I am rooting for them. I wish them nothing but success. I've never watched the launch. Sorry.
So, Starliner is gearing up for a no earlier than, I believe it's May 6th was the last date that I saw.
Yeah.
Although that I think is probably in flux a little bit. Well, I'm sure it is. A demonstration mission to the International Space Station. So this means that astronauts will be on board and going to space station on Starliner. #finally. Like I'm actually very excited about this. No shade or anything, right? Like this stuff is hard, and I would much prefer that Starliner be on the ground wishing they were in the air than in the air wishing they were on the ground, right? Like they did the right things. They found the issues. They kept it on the ground. Like hard to fault them for this. Space is hard. So but now I believe they fixed the issue. What was the last one? It was tape. Was that right? Like the tape was flammable, or there was a
They used a bunch of tape that was flammable.
Yeah, I mean you don't want to fire in space. You just straight up you just don't, right? No. So now Starliner's going to go to space station, and think of this like the equivalent of SpaceX's DM2 mission with Bob and Duck, right? This is their equivalent, and I forgot. I'm terrible with names. I forgot. Anyone remember the astronauts
Butch
going
and
up
Sunny.
on? There you go. Thank you. And this is going to open up a new chapter for space station transit, because right now, the U.S. side at least is 100% reliant on SpaceX, and that sounds neat, but in reality, you want a backup, right? You want multiple forms of transportation to station. You want to enable redundancy to ensure that if anything happens with either provider, you can continue to provide uninterrupted operations to space station. Also, that's a lot for just SpaceX to do, right? And now we've got another member on the scene able to kind of take it and run with it. So
at least it's not just reliant upon Soyuz.
Exactly. Well, and then politics, right? Politics get weird because if it was reliant just on us or just on Russia, then would one side want to play that against the other, which could be potentially not great, right?
Politics has gotten weird, yes.
Yeah. I feel like that's an understatement. But yeah.
And hardware issues too have gotten weird on station as well. There was a couple of issues with Soyuz when very recently in just the past couple of years, in terms of build quality and things like that. So spaceflight is very interesting because it is I don't want to say it's a calculated roll of the dice, and any number of problems that can happen could happen, and you try to be prepared for all of them with it. So, and I would assume with something as complicated as the International Space Station, you even try to plan for the geopolitical issues that may happen, that may arise. But at the same time, sometimes geopolitical issues may become untenable, and you just don't know what it's going to do to the future of a project. So,
I think the chat room's kind of missing the point a little bit. We heard, or at least I saw somewhere in there, redundancies. Seawolf 1, redundancies 2 Dragons. And then Mr. All-Electric Car Lunacy does bring up the correct point, which is there's also redundancy in 2 Dragon pads as well. So if there's a problem with 39, they can launch Dragon off of 40 with astronauts and vice versa. But what if there's a problem with Falcon? What if there's a problem with Dragon itself, right? Now what do you do? I'm not saying there is. I'm just saying what if, right? You need to plan for those things. And so now, even if there's a problem there, we will, assuming a successful flight to station, there's now a backup system, a completely independent infrastructure that will be able to get American astronauts to space station for continued operations and not have to worry about weird geopolitical stuff. Because, we're in a weird geopolitical area. It would be stupid not to pretend everything's not great right now, right? Tensions are high, and so, it's good to have your own option. I guess that's my point. So anyhow, I think this is really exciting. I'm excited to see. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I could recently think of a moment when redundancy was a critical thing, even when redundancy was slightly jeopardized, which was back in the summer of 2015. In October of 2014, we had Antares, one of the Mk-33 engines on the first stage, let go, and it destroyed an Antares launch vehicle with a Cygnus cargo vehicle on there, and then not but 8 months later, the second stage rupture on a Falcon 9 during a commercial resupply services mission, and it destroyed the Falcon 9, and Dragon was lost on that flight. And at that point, Cygnus was not ready to refly, and we were there was a bit of a sort of an attitude of, well, what the hell does the COTS, or Commercial Orbital Transport Services Program, do now? How are we going to supply the station well? And luckily, NASA had thought ahead of time on missions like STS-135 to basically just do a full resupply of the International Space Station, and that was dipped into in order to keep that operating. But yeah, even if you have two providers, there's still risk involved in that you may not be able to actually do what you need to do. So,
Seawolf 1 says redundancy was 2 shuttles on 2 launch pads as well. And okay, I don't think using Space Shuttle as an example of great redundant operations is I don't think that's one you want to really hold up as a shining beacon. It was a beautiful vehicle. It was wonderful. It was glorious. And it was... well, I'll end my statement there.
I think needing a launch on need mission kind of proves the point of
the fact that they had to have one on standby just in case there was an issue with the other one. It's like, oh, this is questionable, guys.
And then launching that one on standby, you're just basically saying, the risk that happened, or the problem that happened during the launch that we're rescuing them from now, we're just going to ignore that happened and hope it don't
There
happen.
are so many failure modes that the chances are so minimal that all of the failures that happened on that other one would also happen on this one, right?
Sure.
Anyhow, I think you'd be great to work at NASA in the early 80s.
No.
Oh, there is. Oh, you know what? That isn't. Hang on. Let's add that. And that is a shuttle failure mode culture shift. Shuttle failure mode culture. I think that would be an interesting topic for the member show, because there was a really interesting culture shift with how much of the vehicle had to be operating before you would say go for launch. So, anyhow, I am excited for start. Go ahead.
This launch would bring the total global launch vehicles capable of taking people to space from 3 to 4. Is that correct? Russia's got one, Dragon, and China's got one, and then the Starliner, right?
You're making me think. I think you're correct.
Yes. It would.
Yes.
So, and then India is working on theirs as well with that. And then Russia's supposed to be working on a Soyuz replacement, but I haven't heard.
Russia's been working on a Soyuz replacement, I think, ever since Soyuz has existed. So, when that will come, we don't know. The Oriole, I think, spacecraft or something along those lines. I mean, the renders and the models, they look cool, but they're yet to build an actual fully functioning spacecraft which can carry humans into orbit safely.
And JTTV says, it still boggles my mind that you fly a grand total of 2 test flights and then you fly humans.
STS-1.
Yeah.
We all went the same place at the same time. Zero space test flights with STS-1. We were like, YOLO, let's go.
Young, Crip, let's go.
They had ejection seats.
So there's an IMAX film called Hail Columbia, and it's fantastic. I love it because it shows you what it was like at that time, and you see NASA in 1981, and knowing what we know now, it is absolutely horrifying how lax they are about everything. But outside of that, there is a part where they're doing a press conference before the STS-1 flight, and somebody they're asking them all questions, and they're all basically things. Chill, that's a good way to put it. And then, John Young, the astronaut's astronaut, they're asking them a whole bunch of questions, and you can just see that John Young is starting to get really fed up with all the safety questions that people are asking. And then finally somebody's like, I don't understand how you can abort if the solids are burning. Like, how do you do that? And John Young, he's holding the microphone, and he just like rolls his eyes as the question, like visibly rolls his eyes as the question's being asked. And when it's done, he just goes, you just pull the little handle. And then everyone around him breaks out into nervous laughter. And it's just so good because they're like, oh, he really would pull the handle. So, like, he would do that. So, yeah. So it's just also very weird to hear a shuttle launch, and then you hear negative seats at one point. So,
negative seats?
Yeah.
Because they could no longer fire the ejection seats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Got it.
Yeah.
That was only STS 1 and 2, or was it just 1?
1 and 2.
Yeah. And then they were safed after that point, I believe, Dada.
Yeah, but they weren't removed until years later.
Yeah.
Space Mike is bringing up a point. I'm so sorry. I didn't hear you. Go ahead.
They inerted the ejection seats, but they didn't remove them or swap them out to something else, and seal off the holes in the inner and outer skins until several missions later.
Space Mike is bringing up there is a Soyuz replacement, and then someone else earlier also brought up Dream Chaser also has it was originally designed for crew, not for cargo, right? So there is a variant where if they would, you don't just flip the bit, right? So there would still be a ton of engineering work that would have to go into it, but if Sierra Nevada wanted to convert that over to crew and had the funding to do it, they probably could. So we could end up with another crew vehicle. Having said that, I don't believe there are any plans to do that, at least not to the best of my knowledge. So, for now, I think the Dream Chaser is going to remain cargo only. And then Soyuz, I feel like we've been talking about the Soyuz human-rated replacement since before we started Space Vidcast. It's been a long time. It's been a real long time. I don't think I'm pretty sure that was before even Dragon and Starliner. So I'm not sure that. I think we're gonna have 4 human-capable spacefaring vehicle. Well, orbital. Well, no, wait, hold up. There's a 5th.
Well, India's working on theirs.
No, we're only counting ones that can send humans to space, right? Working on doesn't count yet. So technically speaking, there are 4 right now, and then soon there will be 5. But
orbital.
Well, China is working on
if you use the word orbital, then it's...
well, so.
Yeah, if you use the word orbital, my number does change. Yeah.
Orbital.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Wait, what do we define space as?
Oh, God. Hold up. Let me add that into the notes. What do we...
This is going to be a mess of an after show, so if you're a member, or you want to become a member, now's the time. Yeah.
What do we define? Yeah. So far, we've got the rocket face painting, which will be 10 seconds of showing a picture and then 2 minutes of all of you mocking me. The shuttle failure mode, culture shift, and what do we define space as? All right. So anyhow, I'm really excited for no earlier than May 6th for this particular launch. Take some of that load off, and then see Seawolf 1 again. If we're defining, Seawolf 1 says Blue Origin capsule. But if we're defining this as orbital space vehicles, that's not an orbital capsule. It's suborbital only.
There is a magnitude of difference between going into orbit and parabolic flights, and God love BO and Virgin Galactic for whatever time they'll be around still. But there's no comparison between those. I had to laugh when Jeff Bezos welcomed Elon Musk to the club of landing boosters back on Earth, because those two are not the same.
I think we should, if we're going to be talking culture shift, like shuttle failure mode culture shift, I think another interesting topic, and maybe we should make this a main show, but let's try it out in the member show. Blue's culture shift. There's a shift occurring right now at Blue, and it's large. It's tectonic, and it's very interesting. So I'm curious to see where that goes. So we'll talk about that in the post show. It may be too little too late. I'm not sure, but like it is interesting to see where all of these things are. And we're talking about like future vehicles. There's obviously Starship as well. So we've got like a ton of vehicles coming online that should be able to send humans to orbit or beyond in the not too distant future. But as of today, there are 3. As of no earlier than May 6th, there might be 4, and well, to at least orbit. And so, yeah, we're getting better. We're getting better. You know?
Yeah.
Cool. Ryan, did we hit your story?
No, it's a very quick one, so it's quite convenient, so I can just squeeze it in here. Rocket Factory Augsburg, who are developing a small sat launcher called RFA-1. You can probably see where the name comes from. It's their first vehicle. They are gunning to be the first orbital launch operator to launch from Saxenvoort Spaceport, which is a spaceport on Unst, which is part of the Shetland Islands, which is part of Scotland, which is part of the UK. Very simple to understand. And so over the last few months, they've been developing and doing the final touches on their vehicle, and they have the latest public update that they have is that they have began to transport the rocket from their factory near Munich up to Shetland. However, there's been an image released by a local news organisation called Shetland News, and that to me looks suspiciously like the first stage of RFA-1 on the launch pedestal at the spaceport. So either this is a very old photo, which I don't really believe because that launch pedestal hasn't been there for a long time, and I don't think RFA have actually shipped anything up there apart from the launch pedestal, or RFA are telling minor porkies and they're not telling the full picture, because that to me looks like a rocket on its launch mount ready to be tested.
Ryan, you're saying this is flying out of Scotland?
Yes.
Is this a polar orbit? Help me understand. Scotland is one unit of nowhere near the equator. So looking at this, the only thing that makes sense is polar.
Yeah, so both Saxenvoort and Sutherland are on the north coast. Sutherland's on the north coast of the mainland. Saxenvoort is on the north coast of the Shetlands. They're both going to be launching into polar and with dogleg sun-synchronous orbit trajectories, which, if you've seen Rocket Lab launches, appear to be, and also transporter launches, those sort of inclinations appear to be very popular with small sat operators. So that's the market which these spaceports are targeting. It's also kind of the only market they can target, because if you launch to the east, you launch over Denmark, you launch over Sweden, you launch over Norway, and then you launch over Russia. And I'm sure that wouldn't be particularly favourable in the current geopolitical climate that we were discussing earlier.
I mean, you'd have to go like east and then pretty far south too, because you gotta hit the equator, right? Like that's a journey, man. That's a journey. You could, I mean, go ahead.
They won't be the first to launch, but they could be the first to reach orbit from UK soil.
Yeah, that's a nice title they're gunning for there.
Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. Actually, that does wrap up this show quite nicely. Puts a little bow on it. So that was pretty fantastic, Ryan. Are you excited? Are you going to go over and see the launch before we close this?
Yeah, I'm really excited. The thing I'm most excited about is going up in the cold and standing in the cold for hours upon end again. I'm actually getting a little bit nervous. I'll be honest, I'm getting a little bit nervous because it's starting to look like this launch could be towards the winter months of this year or next year, like the end of this year or the start of next year, which is like, winter in the Shetlands when it's cold and windy and rainy. And, this is as remote as you can remote in the UK, right? There's one hotel on the island that the spaceport is on, and it's literally it's just someone's house. It's just someone's house. That's all it is. It's a hotel. And
I would recommend booking that room now.
Yeah, that's the thing, and it's gonna be very interesting to figure out not only the logistics of getting a rocket and engineers and everyone required to launch the rocket, but also all of the media and all of the nerds who will want to watch this thing. And it's gonna be absolutely mental. It's gonna be hectic. And it's probably gonna be horrible. But fingers crossed there'll be a launch at the end of the day. So I'm looking forward to it, and also not looking forward to it at the same time. Also because it's so remote, flights are ridiculously expensive, and I don't really want to get on a really long ferry throughout the North Sea, because the North Sea in winter is even more horrible than standing outside during the winter in Shetland. It's the worst place possible for getting to, but that's the whole reason it has to be there, so it doesn't, crash into anyone's house. So,
Ryan, you do know the saying, rockets love to launch in cold, windy, rainy weather. So, the chance of success is very high.
Yeah.
Which means you're going to be there. That's going to suck for you, because they're going to scrub for weather. 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 Get a really thick jacket. Get a great jacket. All right, that's our show, everyone.
There's beaches on this island, so I'm sure it'll be fine and just great for you to go to them, right? So
thanks. Yeah, brilliant.
You're welcome. I mean, hey, at Vandenberg, you could go surfing after watching a rocket launch. So it's literally called Surf Beach. So here's your chance. I would surf the North Sea.
I think
right?
Vandenberg is the second or third most beautiful launch site in the world right now. I think number one is Rocket Lab's launch site in New Zealand. That thing is just crazy when they get the drone shots with the cliff at the end. Hard to beat. Right, Dada? When you see that in their intro, right? Yeah, you love that? Yeah. Hard to beat. And then I think it's kind of a toss-up between Kodiak and Vandenberg. Specifically, I think Slick 6.
As much as I love Slick 6, I'd still put it at 3, because in second, I would put Takashima Space Center in Japan. That is an awesome looking launch site.
Oh, good call. Beautiful. You know what? Hang on. We're gonna say pretty launch sites.
But also Slick 6, because to me, the story of Slick 6 is incredible, just because of how much it took to get that going. So.
All right, that's our show, everyone. And as we mentioned, we've got some topics for our member-only show. And for those of you who were gifted membership by Dave earlier in the show, you will be eligible. There's a link in the description of this episode that will bring you to the members-only show. Otherwise, if you were not gifted a membership, or if you want to gift memberships to people right now, you can do so by going to youtube.com/TMRO/join. Jared kept saying /members. That's incorrect. /join.
Oh my gosh.
You noob. And that will get you.
Sorry.
You were in the middle of SpaceX stuff. I couldn't come back on camera.
I feel like you could come back on camera for that.
Nah.
Jared!
Scold you in the middle of everything. Anyhow, head on over there. For as little as $1 per month, you can get access to the members only show. And of course, it helps the shows as well. I would like to thank everyone so much for watching this week. I hope you all had fun. I have no idea where I'll be next week. Hopefully, I'll be able to join you guys live yet again. I think I did two shows. It was 2 back-to-back shows this time, wasn't it?
Yeah,
both
impressive.
in California. Look at this. Weird. What's going on?
Weird.
I doubt that I will have 3 weeks in California, though. That does not seem... That's a non-starter. We have to add Jamie Cybertruck to the list. Jamie's Cybertruck stories, and how I almost already rolled the truck or slid it off the side of a mountain. Real story. I'm an idiot. On that note, thank you guys so much for watching. Members, we'll see you in a moment.